Hey there, boys and girls, it's Dicebag again, and today I want to talk about the art and flavor of Domain. Now, if you don't know what Domain is, I'll put a link in the description to my first video on it. But basically, it's a card game I've been working on for about a year. It draws heavily on magic and kind of tweaks a lot of the mechanics and the gameplay to be a little more player-friendly, I think. Anyways, this is about the art and the flavor. So what you see here is one of the first pieces I have commissioned from another artist for this game. Artist for this is called Claysense, goes by that online. I'll also link to some of their work in the description. But yeah, this epitomizes a few things about Domain. Now, first of all, the girl's she's in a little bit of a lingerie kind of thing. That's a little too revealing for my particular taste on this thing. I like the game to be a little more gritty, so in the future, that's going to be a point I'll make to avoid basically underwear armor. But other than that, this piece is great. Dang it. We weren't supposed to see that one yet. Some points about this thing. One of the things I want to keep consistent in this world, because I'm a big old world builder. That's why I'm making a game instead of writing novels or something. But this thing right here, see how she's casting this spell using a implement per se? That's one of the things I want to keep consistent in the world, that you don't just basically snap your fingers and cast a spell. If you want to use magic at the drop of a hat, you really need to have it prepared beforehand, and that's where the staff comes in. This staff is particularly charged with a certain spell which she is casting, and that's how you use magic in the heat of combat or on the fly or whatever. You have to prepare it ahead of time in some form or another. So this wand here, not so much a thing that she's channeling power through so much as a gun that's loaded with ice bullets, let's say. That's what it is, a magic gun. So that's the basic gist of how magic works in the world. And of course, preparing spells and stuff like that can take all kinds of various ingredients and time and rituals, whatever you have to do. So it's not just, you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. No rules, no consistency, let's say. And another thing that's there it goes again. Another thing that's brought up in this world is the conflict between humans and dwarves here. Now, in this world of Domain, one of the things that is going on is that instead of having like a bunch of different universes and planes like they do in Magic, what we have is a infinite ocean where continents drift across it in certain patterns. So the first continent we're going to be visiting, one of the main conflicts is between a powerful dwarf clan and the humans of that place who used to be enslaved by them. So this really kind of drives home the point of conflict there. So these humans basically, around maybe a century ago, under the leadership of a prophet of one of their gods, they basically rose up and overthrew their masters and founded their own little city-state, so to speak. And ever since then, they've been in conflict with their old oppressors. That's basically the best thing I've got right now. Now we can go on to some of my own art, which is less impressive, but it is what it is. So here we have some concept art. This is an angel. It's not your typical angel, of course. For a lot of mythical, magical creatures, I really wanted to get back more to a more original style for how they are portrayed in their original lore. And for angels, one of those things is to get away from the woman with wings depiction and get back to more like the weird stuff that's you see actually depicted in like the Bible and Jewish folklore and stuff like that. This isn't quite as bizarre as some of the stuff you see there, but it's different. It's definitely more in that direction than the woman with wings version. So the thing about angels is that they, like the gods, live in basically a purely spiritual and metaphorical world. Not metaphorical in the sense that it doesn't exist, but that it exists purely as symbolism and abstract concepts. So when these guys manifest in the physical world, what you get is that they take a form that's very symbolism heavy. Not so much, it doesn't exactly follow the rules of the normal world, so to speak. So what you have here, obviously this guy's big on the war and the fighting and stuff like that. And that's what he embodies. You see, you got the big oversized weapon, the big shield. He's got a sword sticking out of him. He's bloody. He's got flail heads in place of legs. That's one of the things to make him more, weird and unsettling. And that's really his representative of his domain of warfare and combat. And you might notice like only half of the things that are bloody. The other half is clean. That's because not only is he, about the killing and the slaughter and, smiting thine enemies, he also represents things like peace through strength and stuff like that. So that's why he has the bloody side of the axe, the clean side of the axe, the weapon, and the shield. And of course, the other features, the wings are specially made to look like a bird of prey. And of course, the head, shaped like a rhinoceros to represent strength and power. Also, he's got the halo going on, to show his glory is shining. And the third eye, of course, typical representation of wisdom, and just because it makes him look a little more weird. That's a big gist that I wanted to get through. I'd like him to be a little more weirder. In fact, different kinds of angels will probably look more weird than this, but I really needed to have kind of a normal human build on him to some extent, just because, he's got to hold his weapons somehow. So other guys might see like an angel that's specifically geared towards like wisdom and stuff like that would be a little more bizarre and less human looking because they're more abstract, but this guy's fine as is. So let's move on to some other stuff. Dwarves. This is another one of my pieces. Not as good as Clayson's, but it is what it is. So about the dwarves, one of the things I wanted to do is kind of take them away from the short, stocky human look, which I didn't want to go too far. So what I did was kind of tweak their skin tones. What I really want to have is that they're kind of like more of a stone shaded complexion, kind of to represent that they're stony, for lack of a better word. They like the rocks, and they're of the rocks. So it's just a little thing to kind of differentiate them, because I'm not too keen on the humans but slightly different motif that a lot of races have. And in that vein are the elves. which, again, not just pointy-eared humans. I've also gone ahead and gone with the solid blank eyes, no pupils look for them. I think that's my preferred look for elves. And also, the ears aren't ridiculously long. We're not dealing with Warcraft elves here that, clearly they'd have their ears ripped off by a tree branch while they're riding their tigers through the forest or something like that. Yeah, that's not happening with these elves. And also, their eyebrows are not sticking off their head, and I don't like that look. Last but not least, this guy is called a trell. What's a trell? Well, that's a portmanteau of tree and troll. And there's some lore behind that. But this is a little fantasy race that I didn't want to just stick to the normal standard stuff. I wanted to really kind of branch out a little bit before I got too deep into it to kind of differentiate these things from other fantasy worlds. So this guy, he's a tree person. Yeah, you can see that, I'm sure. He's not so much in the type of like tree beard and whatnot with ints where they're just massive lumbering trees. These guys are more human-sized, still big, but human-sized. And of course, the look for these guys, this guy's, he's obviously in winter or fall. They can grow leaves on their heads, but I'll leave that to other artists. Leaves are a pain to draw. So another thing about these guys, little tongues here. That's the little flavor point I like to point out. I really like to get in depth with some of this flavor stuff, and sometimes maybe I spend too much time on it than I do with the rest of the game. But these guys have a root tongue. They don't really eat in the same way that like humans and others do. They get most of their nutrients from chewing on soil, and a lot of their culture revolves around like farming and cultivating, and there's a lot of crop rotation to keep nutrients in soil and stuff like that. It's more of a cultural hobby, but sometimes they can supplement their diet with plants and whatnot. But their main source of food is nutrients from Earth. So one of the things I wanted to really do with these guys is kind of have a very inhuman type of race, so I could kind of play with some more stranger themes with like their society and stuff. Like they're less individualistic than most of the other races, and their reproductive cycle is completely different. They grow their plants, or not their plants, they grow their young basically in gardens. So that's a whole thing that their culture has to change around to compared to like normal humanoid culture. And that's something I really wanted to drive home in this kind of thing. So that's about all I can say, I think. We'll end on the good piece again. So as I get more art in for this, I'll probably talk more about the ins and outs of the flavor and all that. But that's it for now, so let me know what you think. Give me some feedback. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.